What's up everybody, and welcome back to the Lethal Games channel. It's been a while since I've done one of these first impressions videos, but I'm pretty excited about this one. I don't think I've really ever explained it, but these videos are specifically for games that are in beta or early access. These are games that are currently in development and for the most part incomplete. So the goal of these videos are to take a general look at the game and give you my thoughts on them without going into too much specifics. Today we'll be taking a look at Legion TD2, and for those of you who have played Warcraft 3 custom games, you'll likely be familiar with Legion TD, which was one of the most popular tower defense games at the time. It still exists spiritually today through Squadron TD in StarCraft 2, and the guys over at Auto Attack Games are following the footsteps of Dota 2 in creating a standalone title from a Warcraft mod. But that's not all they're trying to do. Legion TD2 is also attempting to become the first tower defense esport, and I'll give you my thoughts on that later on in the video. But first, let's explain what Legion TD is to the uninitiated. Legion TD is a team-based tower defense game, and each match is a 4v4 battle between two teams. Each player is responsible for their own lane, where during each turn, waves of increasingly stronger enemies spawn. Your goal is to defeat the wave and prevent your king from dying. Here's what makes this tower defense game unique from the other ones. Instead of building towers at the end of each turn, you place stationary units that come to life when the wave spawns. Units are AI controlled and have their own attack and armor types. This becomes very important in strategizing what units to build during specific waves, and there are two tables you can open up to help you with that. If you fail to defeat a wave, it's called a leak. Luckily, if your teammates don't leak, their units can catch the leak right before they reach your king, and these leaking units will give your opponent extra gold, which can be used to build more units. Deciding when to build or upgrade units and when to spend your gold on income is the most difficult part of the game. You can get gold when your opponent leaks or when you kill minions, but you're also rewarded gold income at the end of each round. There is a second resource called Mythium, which your workers can gather. This Mythium is used to send additional units to your opponents along with regular waves to try and screw up your enemy. Each time you send a unit, you permanently gain more gold income. This is the basic gameplay loop, and there's a lot more intricate details you need to understand to be successful at the game. But since the game is in early access, a lot of details may change, and I'll refrain from commenting on that stuff until I do my full review when the game launches. Right now, the game is very bare bones. There's only 4 playable races and a mastermind race where you get to choose between randomized units at the beginning of the game. The developers have said that their goal is to have more than 10 legions, so there's clearly a lot more work to be done in this regard. On that note, I do want to talk a little bit about the developers, as I think it's an important aspect for early access games. The dev team behind Legion TD2 consists of only 2 people, the very same creators of the original Warcraft 3 mod. They're clearly passionate about their project, and it shows with the transparency they have with their community. There's a fairly active Discord channel which you can join, talk about the game, strategize, and the devs actually post updates there as well. The team has a goal of weekly patches to continuously update the game throughout the early access period, and so far they've delivered. When the game first launched, it was plagued with server congestion and disconnection issues, and they managed to fix the majority of those issues within a day or two and have been pushing hotfixes multiple times a week. All these things point to a development team that's committed to the game, and that's always a positive thing. Now, as for the ambition of becoming an esport, I am skeptical, as I'm sure many of you are. The genre of tower defense doesn't exactly scream competitive, but I guess if there were to be one, Legion TD is probably the best candidate for it because of the interactions between teams and the possible strategies involved. Though it'll be interesting to see how that develops because there's only so much you can do in a tower defense game. Once you figure out the right timings and what to build, there really isn't much room for outplaying or anything of that nature. But there's also another reason why I think the game may not be as successful as an esport, and that's the business model. This game is not free to play and costs about $20. This will likely be their Achilles heel. As a game that isn't very popular or have a huge following, it's critical that they build up a large player base. Even in successful esports like League of Legends or Dota 2, only a small fraction of the player base actually participates in esports, whether that be watching or competing. Removing that barrier to entry and making the game free to play will allow people who are skeptical about the game or people who just can't afford it a chance to get into the game. League of Legends was in the same boat when it first started. It was an unknown game made by an unknown developer, but it was free to play. Coupled by the fact that Riot spent copious amounts of marketing money, they were able to grow an insanely large player base and create the biggest esport brand today. I really doubt Legion TD2 will see large scale growth at the current price tag and no marketing. CSGO is probably the only exception where a pay to play game is hugely successful in esports. But that's mostly due to the fact that it already had an enormous player base from the Counter-Strike franchise, and also the fact that FPS games are generally a very good genre for esports. I believe the proper business model for this game to succeed would be free-to-play with cosmetic microtransactions. This model has proven to work because it removes the financial barrier to entry, and when your player base increases, the amount of microtransactions that occur will also increase. By the nature of the game, they can easily implement minion or legion skins. In fact, they already have this in the game, it's just not fully accessible right now. I feel like they have a fun and addicting formula, and if people had a chance to play it, they'd likely enjoy it. I do want to point out that the developers have actually addressed this question directly in the FAQ, and the simple answer they gave was that as a team of 2 people, they simply don't have the manpower to create skins to fund the game while simultaneously developing it. And that's a fair point, but I would not be surprised to see the game go free to play sometime after its initial launch when they start to focus on the competitive side of things. Speaking of which, the competitive ladder is already live and it uses the classic ELO rating system. You have a rating for each of the legions as well as an overall account rating. From what I can tell so far, the matchmaking system is fast and has me matching with people of similar skill levels, so there's no complaints from me there. Though again, everything is subject to change, and the latest patch had some minor tweaks to the matchmaking system itself. I've always enjoyed a good tower defense game, and I really do hope that the game gets more attention. It'll be interesting to see if it has what it takes to become an actual esport. So what are your thoughts on the game? Did you play the original mod? Do you think it could become an actual esport? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will definitely be doing a full game review when Legion TD actually launches as a complete game. So hit that subscribe button and don't miss out. That's all from me, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.